Hello and welcome to Threes to Wound. My name's Reese, and on today's episode, it's time for part 2 of our Craftworld, new team, the thing I'm trying to make them great. And so much has happened in that little time of me bringing out that last video. So let's jump in and see what the hell's happened. Alright guys, very quickly, just before we jump into the video, there's one thing I wanted to bring up. The Kill Team Open 2022 in Baltimore, Maryland is fast approaching. Feb 19 and the 20th, the guys who are organising and running that event reached out just to see if we could do a little shout out to get people involved. It looks like it's already getting close to capacity or selling out, so make sure if you have the chance, if you're in the area, make sure you jump in. They've got some tournaments, raffles, prizes, painting classes, tutorials, casual play, narrative play, all the stuff that makes Kill Team really, really fantastic. It looks like an amazing event, and if I didn't live in the land down under and was in the land up over, I would be there for sure. So definitely make sure you jump in if you get the chance and check it out. Now, back to more Eldar nonsense. So I set off with high hopes with this adventure into making the craft worlds great again, but something went a little bit haywire. When I finally ordered my Dire Avengers and my new Rangers, Citadel Finecast's finest, lo and behold, I went home, looked on the internet and did actual more research and found out that potentially, and very realistically, it's happening. There's going to be some new Rangers and Guardians models coming out very, very soon. So close. The good news is, I still got my models. I get to work on them. The bad news is they won't be the new ones. So I'm a little bit torn. I'm a little bit frustrated because it would have been really, really cool. I know looking ahead, I'll probably look at some Guardians anyways. And a multi-part kit of the Rangers would have been really, really cool. So I hope there's nothing that comes out that adds new elements that gets added in Kill Team that I now won't have models for, but only time will tell. Once I dealt with that, then it was time to discover what it means when it says Citadel Finecast. Now, I'd obviously heard the rumors and heard about that they are a little bit more difficult to deal with, that it's a bit of a softer material, all those different bits and pieces. So I watched a few videos to make sure I was prepared. I still wasn't prepared. I still managed to break 3 out of 5 of the gun barrels while cleaning them up. And it is a lot of work to clean them up, like a lot. And especially with the fine details, it's so hard to see a lot of them. And a lot of the extra little just tags of resin in bits and pieces and places you can't see. It took me a while. And I said, between breaking the barrels and how long that took me, I was already pretty flustered going into that side of things. Then, of course, I forgot the step where you are meant to give them a little bit of a bubble bath. I forgot to do it. So now I am a little bit concerned. I've since base coated them, beginning to paint them. Then maybe that's going to come back to bite me. That maybe the paint's going to react differently, won't stick as well. I have felt a little bit like the paint hasn't been going on as well on the Finecast, and again, I'm not sure if that is just because I'm hyper aware of it, or if that's a real thing that happens, that it is a different material, like painting metal to the normal models. Is there a difference? Let me know before. Am I insane? Or is that because I didn't give them the bubble bath? I don't know. But it doesn't seem to sit quite as nicely. The colours don't seem to pop as much. Dire Avengers, on the other hand, came together beautifully. Really happy with how those models are, considering how old that kit is, especially with all the gripes for Aspect Warriors and all the stuff going on around them and wanting new models and all the jokes going around that. I was a bit concerned, but luckily these guys were no issue at all. So I popped them together and I'm really happy with how they look. And they're actually, I always thought the Dire Avengers were a little bit boring. I was like, aren't they just fancy Guardians? The kit's still got a bit of love in it though. I like all the little extra bits and pieces they've got. So I had a lot of fun building, and they do still look quite dynamic, even if they are, I guess, the most boring of all aspects. So I had a friend come around and we decided to play a game with a bit of a mission behind it. One of the ones from the Ocatarius book. And that was 2.2 Saboteurs, which is basically one team defends, and there's the key objective, which is the little oil rig. You've got to protect that from the opposition. The attackers have got to get through, plant bombs on that, and blow it up. Sounds simple enough, and I was like, oh yeah, the Eldar can handle this. This should be no issue. But a few things then worked against Eldar and what they needed to achieve their victory. I ended up as the defender, and one of the rules as well is you split your team into two separate fire teams, and your opposition gets to pick which one of those teams has been lured away to start the game. So that meant automatically I was down a lot of bodies. My opponent also managed to pick a fantastic kill team or fire team for this mission, which was Assault Intercessors. And now we know that the Space Marines are much maligned in this new edition, or at least so far, but they're still Space Marines. They still move really fast. They've got 3 APL and they've got power armor. All they had to do here was run really fast, not die, and blow stuff up. And if anyone got in their way, cut them in half. So, you know, all those things combined, I was already hard up against it. What I've already found, and this game went on to highlight, is although my list can do a lot of damage over an extended period of time, it really lacks anything that is that, that melts an opposition unit, that is a one and done. There's no plasma in the list. There's no melter guns. There's no equivalents to those either. It's lots of shuriken, and lots of sniper rifles, small amounts of mortal wounds. But then when you have to take half your team off the board to start the game, when you want to be doing your maximum damage, and I understand why they did this. It could be a short game if it went too hard the other way. You could just line up and melt the opposition before they made it. It made this mission really, really hard for my Eldar to keep up with. The next thing that went wrong, and there was a lot of them, was I'd positioned my leader in a position where I hoped he would be able to jump out and lay down lots of fire with his double shuriken, and I thought he might have been the heavy-hitting unit that could have slowed them down. Due to losing initiative and then having him just a touch too close, the opposition was able to charge their leader, get within plasma pistol range, and melt his face off. Not only that, that ended up scoring my opponent 5 victory points on his TAC ops. So not only did I lose one of my best units, I lost them in the first turn, and it scored my opponent 5 victory points after the first move of the game. I can't stand to fly. Needless to say, it didn't get much better from there. I did turn things around. I killed his leader in return. It was definitely a bold suicide move by him, but he knew what he was doing. He was happy to take that, and it was a very, very smart move. I also found my own TAC ops weren't great for this game. It was really hard to find the time because the game moved so quick. It was over so quickly, and especially starting only 4 models on the board. And then in the second turn, you roll to bring in your guys from reserves. So it was 4 models coming in. All you need to do is roll a 4+, 50-50 chance. None of my units came in at all. I whiffed on every single one. So I spent the first 2 turns with 4 units on the board, trying to, slow down, 5. Sure, I got it down to 4, but 4, power armored freight trains who only had to get into base contact or within triangle of the objective to start planting bombs on it. And they did. Not only that, because of the small amount of units they had, they'd also equipped all of their team with melter charges. So not only were they hitting and doing damage each one of those bombs, but they were doubling it. Every one of them had that. I didn't take the Vox thing because I was like, oh, it'll be fine. It's 50-50. I shouldn't need that. I needed it. Eventually what happened, by the end of the game, I'd got my guys, they come on automatically in turn 3, and I absolutely tore them apart from that point on. I had done pretty consistent damage. I used the Elder's speed to keep them away from being charged or anything like that. But of course, it didn't actually matter too much because they knew what they had to do, and my opponent played the game beautifully. Played to the objective and wasn't afraid to lose his units because it doesn't matter if they all die, you can still win the game, especially when you blow up the objective. So he managed to, by the end of, I think, turn 3, he'd achieved the objective of blowing up or getting the maximum victory points on that. He'd scored 5 victory points for his TAC ops. There was one more he couldn't get. Can't even remember how it went, but thank God. And I'd scored very little TAC ops and obviously getting no VP at all because the installation had been destroyed. So yeah, it was a rough first game for the Eldar. But it definitely highlighted, I think for me, and having not played them before, One, why you always take a full roster, because I think swapping out either of those fire teams to add in the Guardians with a weapons platform would have been a much better option. I didn't have that available. That's definitely something, number one. But two, also being able to adjust to the mission and having the versatility. It just didn't feel like Eldar had that. Missions where you need to be fast, quick, and you can hide. Of course, they're going to excel, but ones where you either need to hold ground or, you know, you can't really use your speed to the best of advantage, you're always going to be on the back foot. So I'd love to know if anyone's played that mission with the Craftworlds as well and had some success as the defender. I'm sure as the attacker it may be a little bit different. Obviously they've got the speed, still restricted to APL. It would have been very interesting if it was assault intercessors having to defend against, you know, that same combat team of mine, which was lots of rangers and units that don't really want to move. Again, it may not have been a good one for either team. It just happened to be that was the absolute worst way for it to go for me. In the meantime, or at least the next steps we're going to look at, I'm going to keep painting up the guys. I definitely want to get them out there again for another game. That'll be the next thing. Hopefully something that'll favour my team a little bit more. I'm going to keep painting them, so I'll keep bringing up pictures in the next version, obviously on my Instagram as well. Sometimes on Reddit, I pop them up there as well as I'm working through them. Love to hear your thoughts, any suggestions on how to paint them. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching the video and following along. There'll be plenty more content coming up as well. I've got a few more teams I'm going to look into building. I'm even going to look at magnetizing some guys as well. I've never done that before. What could possibly go wrong? Until next time, my name's been Reese. This has been Threes to Wound. Thank you so much for joining us.